Woof woof! Hey guys, it's me Marcus, aka the Mad Dog, and thank you for tuning in to another video. Now yes, I know that this video probably should have come out a few days ago, and this is probably going to be the sole reason why I'm never going to get like a silver play button or anything like that. But DC Fandome has now happened. All that hype, all that buzz that we had going into it has now officially paid off, because I think I can say, and I think I speak for the majority of people, this was actually a really good event. I think it brought a lot of enjoyment back, and a lot of people who could never really experience Comic-Con actually got to enjoy a part of that for one time. Now another reason why this video is late is because I did actually try to do a reaction to all the trailers in one go, but admittedly it was mostly me just staring at the screen. I'm not really like a visceral reactor when anything happens. But let's be honest, it's YouTube. You've probably already seen 1,000 or so videos of people reacting to the exact same trailer that you've already seen and you already know your same reaction for. I thought being the Mad Dog I'd do things a little bit differently, so it's hopefully a bit more interesting for you, and I thought I'd collect my thoughts and then sit down and discuss them with you here. Except for the trailer for The Flash Season 7, because I'm not actively watching that, so it wouldn't really make sense. But we're going to start off with the Wonder Woman 1984 trailer. Now this was quite promising, but admittedly for me, I wasn't really too big of a fan of the first Wonder Woman film. There was just far too many parallels to Captain America, and he's just a character that I preferred overall. Whereas Gal Gadot, for me, she doesn't really accentuate that Wonder Woman feeling. Like, she's still just a little bit too skinny for me, and I'm not trying body shame or anything stupid like that. But when I think about Wonder Woman on screen, it'd be somebody who has a little bit more of a presence, and unfortunately Gal Gadot, even though I really liked it, and even though I liked her in Fast and Furious, she just isn't Wonder Woman for me. There's just something I can't really put my finger on. But I was hoping with this sequel they were going to step away from those parallels that I could identify with Captain America. So the second film about this franchise is about the hero being in a time that they don't really understand, and that they're trying to figure out everything that they can, but their friend from the past that they believe was dead ends up coming back and kind of making them address all these questions that they've had about themselves. And there's also a lot of scenes set around the Washington Monument. Okay, yeah, so if you look at any two films you could probably find parallels between one and the other, but for me it does always seem that these Wonder Woman films are borrowing quite heavily from Captain America. Like for the third film, I'm 100% expecting Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man to come into the film and then have some kind of civil war. And even though I'm still not entirely sold on Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, I loved all the stuff that we got in here. Like, the costume just looks much better. It's so much more colourful and vibrant, and it looks powerful as a result. I love the way she uses her lasso so that she can kind of like ride across the lightning, even if I'm not really sure how that would work. And I like how she used it as a shield. There are so many good action set pieces in here that it seems like they are really comfortable with the character that they're filming. They understand that there is some goofiness to this and that they're leaning into that, which I think is a great move. I also love the golden Wonder Woman armor that we saw at the end, which really reminds me of the George Perez era, and it is just great that they're borrowing from the history of the character, especially at the time when those comics were likely coming out. However, even though I like the actress that was playing Cheetah, I wasn't really sold on her final design. I'm not really sure if it's something that's going to look better when we're seeing it in the actual film, but in these few clips that we got from the trailer, it just didn't really impress me. As well, at the start of this trailer there was a lot of stuff of young Diana, and I really hope we're not going to spend a lot of time on Themyscira again, because I didn't really find that actress any good. I know she's probably only about 5, but admittedly, if I'm paying for the film, you best be able to act. And I think the more interesting Wonder Woman stuff in this film is going to be set in 1984. And I know I'm completely in the minority, and I can't even really put my finger on why, but I am not a Chris Pine fan. I love the Star Trek reboot films, but I still don't like Chris Pine at all. There's just something about him that really pisses me off. Like, every time I see him, he irritates me. And when people say that I've got a face that they just wish that they could punch, I kind of understand it now. All in all, this was a decent enough trailer, but it didn't really steal the show, and I'm just hoping that we get a movie that's an actual 9 out of 10 rather than a movie that's like a 5 or a 6 out of 10 that everybody keeps telling you is a 9 out of 10. Next up, we've got The Suicide Squad, which is a different film from the film Suicide Squad. And I've got to be completely honest with you, I've got no idea what this film is, but I am in. We didn't get an actual trailer, it was more just a behind the scenes that was compiled in a way that looks like a trailer, and admittedly all this pretty much felt was a 2-minute reel of James Gunn saying, "Fuck you Marvel, this film's going to be better than Guardians of the Galaxy." But there was a lot of promise with this one, and even though the style of Guardians of the Galaxy was really unique, especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it seems like James Gunn's being given even more freedom with this one. It was good that it looks like they're using more practical effects in this one, because I'm one of those people that I really prefer practical effects over CGI. We even got some cool looking stuff with Weasel, so I'm interested to see what they do there and how they balance that out. Is it going to be entirely animatronic, or is it going to be part puppet, part CGI? I don't really know. And the sheer amount of characters in this gives me hope that we're going to see more than one very minor character die at the very beginning of it.
But above all this, I wish you love. And I will
Because it's a Suicide Squad, it should feel like any character at any point could just get killed. And in a similar way to the last Ronin video that I did, I might do a bit close to the time like my bets and my odds on who I think is likely to die in the Suicide Squad film. Admittedly, the characters that most interest me in this are Idris Elba as Bloodsport, you've got Nathan Fillion, you've got John Cena as the Peacekeeper or the Peacemaker, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, and weirdly, Polka Dot Man. Like, what are they going to do with him? I was hoping he'd be the villain in the Batman, but admittedly they seem like they're going with the Riddler. But still, there's such a wide array of characters in this, it really gets me excited, and I'm looking forward to this film when before it wasn't even on my radar. And as well, I really love the new Harley Quinn design. Like, that costume is just perfect. To me, it reminds me very much of the Arkham games, so I'm just happy with that overall. But for me, and I don't know if anybody else is feeling the same, I know a few people have expressed this, but I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of Harley Quinn. She's everywhere at the minute. She's got her own animated show, she was in the Arkham game, she was pretty much front and centre in Injustice. She's had her own movie, she led the first Suicide Squad film, and now she's pretty much going to be the lead in this Suicide Squad. So I don't know about you, but I'm just a little bit burnt out by it, and I hope that doesn't derail this entire film for me. I'm glad I got that Harley Quinn thing out of the way, so what's the next trip? The Suicide Squad kills the Justice League. Great, more Harley Quinn. So yeah, there was video game trailers along with this, which is interesting because they didn't really seem to advertise any kind of comics besides the fact that we're getting a new milestone event. But this is Rocksteady, and I absolutely love the Batman Arkham games. They were so much of my teenage years that this is just going to bring back so much nostalgia every time I hear that name Rocksteady. And as well, I've got them all on PS4, and I'm planning on doing them later on in this channel, so if you haven't subscribed already, do so, and you can watch that as soon as it comes out. This was just a cinematic, there was no kind of gameplay in there, and it looks like an interesting concept. As well, I'm not sure about anybody else, but with this opening cinematic, I was getting those same vibes that I was getting when I saw the DC Universe Online opening reveal trailer or whatever it was called, but I'm just praying that this game is much better than the final product of that one. I did want a little bit of gameplay, I was hoping there'd be something following up after that, just to be able to understand the mechanics of how this works. Like, can you choose which character you want to be, or are you forced to be other characters in certain levels? How do the Justice League come into this? Are they just final bosses, or can you actually play as them in some kind of way? Because for the longest amount of time, the rumour was that Rocksteady was next going to do a Superman game, but the problem with a Superman game is that you either nerf him to the point where he doesn't really feel like you're playing as Superman, or he's so overpowered that the entire game would be completely easy. So it'd be cool if there was some kind of balancing act between the two, because it's a bit odd that Warner Brothers is quite comfortable with you going across and trying to kill all of the Justice League. But it's good that just off one video, this game's already making me ask all these questions, because I'm so excited for what's going to come out after this. And I'm not going to lie, it already feels like it's going to be so long until we get to 2022 just so I can finally play this. After that, I checked out the Gotham Knights trailer and also the gameplay footage, and of course this is going to be good to me. You can play as Nightwing. I seem to be in the minority that I really enjoyed Arkham Origins. I didn't think it did a lot new with the formula that came from Rocksteady, but I thought it did enough to give us a really good experience and an enjoyable game. And at first it looked like this game is going to be set in the Arkham continuity, but I'm not too sure now, because obviously we know the end of Arkham Knight, and spoilers if you haven't played that game, but Batman does fake his own death, or he does actually die. I don't really know. It's quite confusing actually. But as the trailer went on, I did actually question that, because Oracle is now Batgirl again. And yes, I know that she had a wheelchair next to her in the shot, implying that she did used to be paralysed, but for me it makes me question, are they just going to go with like the new 52 kind of continuity of it and she can just suddenly walk again? But the gameplay did look decent as well, and I like that it's 2-player co-op throughout the entire game, because it means that I can play it with my girlfriend, I can make her do all the difficult things and then take all the credit for it. And if that isn't the point of getting into a relationship, I don't really want to know what is. Like the Suicide Squad game before though, I'm really interested to see how the mechanics of this balance out. It did sound like they said that you can play as whichever character you want at whichever time, but for me I'm wondering how that's just going to work. Because I'm not going to lie, if I can play as Nightwing throughout the entire game, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So this game might have a tough task ahead of it unless it uses the 3 letters that just strike fear completely into me. RPG! Now quick defense, I don't hate RPGs, it's just I know that every time I see an RPG, it means I'm going to spend 3 times as long on the game than if it was just like a linear narrative. And I'm not as young as I used to be, I'm 26 now, I've got a full-time job, I've got this channel that takes up a lot of time, I've got so much reading to do that for me, I want to enjoy this game fully, but if it's an RPG, I just know it's going to take up so much of my life, and I just can't afford to do that. But still, the look of this game was great, the inclusion of vehicles looked really fun as well, and I just think that this is going to be the reason why I end up buying a PS5, in a similar way that Arkham Knight was the only reason that I brought a PS4. The trailer after that I watched was some kind of weird cinematic with Vin Diesel in some kind of Black Adam costume. If I'm honest, I feel a bit sorry for this film. Like, I feel like when it was originally announced, when it was that slate of 10 films, and you know, it was announced that The Rock was going to be Black Adam, we were told that when we were at the peak of The Rock-ageddon, you know, when it was like between 2013 and 2017, where The Rock could do absolutely no wrong. He was unstoppable. Everything that he was in was a hit. Even that film about the earthquake and the weird one about a skyscraper. During those years, it genuinely felt like they got to a point where they were just testing the look. Like, they were saying like, what's the dumbest film that we can make, and put The Rock in and still make a ton of money. However, times have changed since this movie was first announced, and although he still is lovable, The Rock doesn't have the same invincibility that he used to. Maybe somebody used paper against him. However, because of how much force and impact they put behind the announcement that The Rock was going to be Black Adam, I feel like this is the movie that they just can't walk away from. They couldn't just forget about it, like that Cyborg film that nobody seems to mention anymore. But I do hope this film's good. The animations for it did look quite cool, the costume design was sort of interesting, but there wasn't really much more I could say about this. There wasn't anything to really go off. Now, let's get onto the trailer that I know a lot of people are excited for, but all in all, I don't think anybody cares what anybody else has to say about this movie. And yes, of course, I am talking about the Snyder Cut of Justice League. Early on in this channel, I did a video where I gave like a balanced discussion on this like Snyder Cut, and I said some of my concerns, I said some of my hopes, but still, people, and I mean morons when I say people, took that as some kind of personal attack at the film that they think is already perfect. Like, one moron in particular thought it was worthwhile to spend their time in their life, you know, which is limited for all of us, to find me on Facebook to kind of like just heckle me and send me a load of shitty messages. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Like, this film doesn't exist yet. They're still creating it. Why are people so divided by it? Why is it that if you love this film, then you've got to be somebody that doesn't understand movies, you don't understand comics, but if you hate this film, oh, you just don't understand Zack Snyder. I'm someone completely in the middle, because whether you like it or not, this film isn't out yet. I want nothing more than there to be a perfect Justice League film. That's all I've ever wanted. Why on earth would I want this film to fail, even if it's from a director that I don't really like? A bad Justice League film, as we've already seen, just means that it's going to hurt the entire community. So of course, I wanted this film to succeed when it was first announced, despite the fact that I wasn't a Batman vs Superman fan, despite the fact that I didn't like Man of Steel. I want Zack Snyder to do a great film, and it might sound like I'm labouring that point, but it's because some people, if you say one slight concern about the film, they all of a sudden think that you're completely trashing on it. I want this film to be good, but just because I want something to succeed, it doesn't mean that I can completely turn a blind eye to any kind of issue that I can see from the trailer. Like, this whole Snyder Cut situation has made me lose a lot of respect for channels that I've been watching since I was about 14, because they've shown that they just pander their opinion to whatever it is that the crowd wants to hear. The very same people who wanted Zack Snyder snack, the very same people who wanted Zack Snyder sacked, the very same people who wanted Zack Snyder sacked after the Batman vs Superman film came out because they didn't have any faith that he could do a Justice League film, are now the people saying that this is the film that they always wanted and that they always wanted to see his vision. For me, I'd rather be honest and I'd rather be real, and I'd prefer it that I have to say, look guys, I was wrong about this, than pretend that I'd never had a different opinion in the first place. I'd rather get hate now but know that I'm somebody who's credible and honest, rather than somebody that's just going to say exactly what you want to hear so that everybody can continue living in an echo chamber. So have I made my point? Can I get into the actual discussion about the trailer now? Because there were actually some really promising shots in here. I like the stuff with the Flash, and we got to see Iris West, and we also got to see the Speed Force come into effect. They did some really cool stuff of enticing us with more of Cyborg from stuff that we didn't have before, even if in typical Zack Snyder fashion it's kind of spoiling exactly who dies in the movie. As well, what I did think was really promising is that they seemed to fix a lot of the special effects, which was one of the complaints about the original film, but it was because it was just so rushed. So Steppenwolf looked a lot better, and it looked like he had some kind of like Iron Man type armor, you know, it was nanotech, it was living, it was breathing. And there was that one as well of Aquaman and Mera being inside that kind of water bubble, and that just looks so much better now that it's had that final polish on it. And we did get a look at Superman's black suit, and it looks exactly like the same suit but with a black tint on it, so it kind of looks like exactly what I could just imagine in my head. And Henry Cavill's beautiful British face does remain untouched, so it's just good that, you know, it does seem like they're going in with some kind of authenticity to what they originally wanted to create. But if you're one of those ravenous fanboys that only wants to hear your own opinions regurgitated and you want to just continue living in your echo chamber, I would recommend turning this video off now, because this is the point where I have to give a balanced review and I have to talk about some of the concerns that I've got. Because honestly, what is the new plot of this movie? Besides a few scene changes and the colour palette being a bit changed and the fact that Joss Whedon added some kind of humour into it which didn't really land, the script that they used in that original movie was mostly the one that was written by Zack Snyder and his wife. And now's a better time than ever to say it. I understand exactly the situation that Zack Snyder went through. It's awful what happened to him with his daughter and you wouldn't wish that on anybody. But still, I'm a consumer that's judging the film. I can't just say a film was perfect if it wasn't, because of the fact that the director was going through a really difficult personal struggle. Like, I get that this is just a teaser to confirm that it is really coming out, but for me, if I was Zack Snyder, I wouldn't have even done a teaser. I would have literally just sat in front of the camera like this. I would have said, this is the situation, this is the plot that I've got. You don't even need a trailer, it's coming. You know it's going to be better than the thing you've already got. I wouldn't just be showing you the same shots that you got before, but with the saturation and the contrast edited a little bit. I would be entirely trying to make you realise that this is going to be a completely different film. A few cosmetic changes aren't going to turn a bad movie great. I am hoping that with the next trailer comes out, they do address some of these concerns that I've got. They do convince me that the plot is going to be completely different, because Darkseid, I know he isn't Darkseid at that point, but for me, that isn't enough to make me think that this film's going to be great, because we saw some of him in the original cut. And Steppenwolf was still a completely flat villain, and I'm not really sure if they can flesh him out enough to make him interesting. And for me, this was a very paint-by-numbers Zack Snyder first trailer. Reminded me a lot of that first Watchmen trailer all those years ago. It had a slow song, and the one in this just always reminds me of Shrek, but it had cool looking shots, it was unnecessary slow motion, and a dramatic quote from one of the characters at the very end. However, if this is trying to make me watch a 4-hour version of a film that I've already seen and didn't really like, but this time it's being directed by a director that mostly did all the work on the first version of the film that I already didn't like, and at best I think only 2 of these films are watchable, I needed something a little bit more than this to make me fully commit to jumping on that hype train. Don't get me wrong, if the next trailer comes out and it's perfect and it's everything that I wanted, I'm going to come back, I'm going to hold my hands up and I'm going to tell you all that I was wrong the first time, because I think having some kind of humility is important when you've got a YouTube channel and you're kind of giving your opinion all the time. But this is the last thing that I'm going to say on the Snyder Cut, and I think it's important, which is why I've left it to the end when most people have probably already turned off this video anyway. But I think everyone is already going to get the film that they are already saying exists. So if you're somebody who thinks this film's going to be perfect and it's going to be so much better than the original film and it's going to be the best superhero movie that's ever existed, I think that when the Snyder Cut comes out, that's exactly what you're going to see. But at the same time, I think if you're somebody who's already saying this film's going to be awful, that it's not going to rectify anything, and if anything it's going to be worse than the original cut, I also think that that's the exact film that you're going to see next year. So for me, I think I'm going to get a film that's going to be stylistically very beautiful, but I think the plot's going to be very weak and lacking, and I'm going to be wondering what could have been had the direction been a little bit different, because that's exactly what I felt when I watched this trailer. Now, the last trailer is of course The Batman, and everyone's entitled to their opinion and I respect everybody's opinion, but in all honesty, if you watched the Batman trailer and you didn't think it stole the show, I don't think we were watching the same event. This trailer was phenomenal. I'm currently writing a script which is my top 10 favourite superhero trailers of all time. This is going to have to go in. I'm going to have to rewrite that script now, because that's just how good this trailer was. Again, I might be wrong by the time the final film comes out, but I've 100% been on board with Robert Pattinson as Batman from the moment that it was announced. I think a lot of people who don't want him in the role still see him as a sparkly kid from Twilight, which, you know, was over 10 years ago now. He's matured so much as an actor, and one of my favourite films is a movie called Good Time, and if you haven't watched it, please do. It's on Netflix and it's great. And for me, a lot of people are saying they just can't see him in the role, they can't see him as Bruce Wayne, but I think that's possibly the best reason why he should be Batman. Bruce Wayne never wants to be associated as the Dark Knight, so if you've got somebody who you just can't physically see in that role, they've done a good job as casting him. And this trailer gave us so much to work with. Like, I loved the tone straight from the beginning, but as well I like the fact that it seems like they've got a clear direction direction that they want to go with. They don't really care about the wider DCEU, they're just telling the film that they want to tell. The Riddler seems to be working in a similar way to Jigsaw, which I really like. The Riddler should be someone who is terrifying because of the fact that he's got this superior intellect. And as well, it seems like this is primarily going to be a detective film, which is exactly the thing that we need to spice up whatever it is that we need for Batman to work. As much as I liked Ben Affleck in the role, and I wish he would have got a chance in his own film, I just think that we need that kind of fresh energy to it, and I like that we've got a younger Batman. It seems like he's a lot more angry, and the thing is, I like that he's got this vulnerability to him. The fact that people thought he wouldn't be able to hold himself up in a fight is exactly what we need. I'm getting a little bit sick of the whole, oh, but it's because he's Batman, that's why he can do anything. It's just because he's Batman. It seems like a Dark Knight that is going to be making mistakes, and that scene that everybody's talking about, you know, where somebody says, who are you supposed to be, and just beats the shit out of that thug, that is the most perfect moment to symbolize this entire event. I think in that moment, the thug was everybody who doubted Robert Pattinson as Batman, and it was just him beating his way through and saying, you know what, if you don't think I'm going to be good at this role, I'm just going to use force until I am. Maybe I'm getting way too ahead of myself with this film because apparently only 25% of the footage is being shot, but please just be good. Because at the time when Joker came out last year, everybody was saying that Joaquin Phoenix wouldn't stand a chance against Ben Affleck, which I 100% agree with, but I think this Batman, you know, the Robert Pattinson version of him, would actually be a good Batman to go against Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. Obviously I know that they're set in different times, but still, that's just a pipe dream that I can have later on down the line. I did love all the Planet of the Apes films that Matt Reeves did, so this just makes me very, very excited. But then again, I really liked Fury, which was directed by David Ayer, and then he went on to direct Suicide Squad, so you know, maybe my judgment isn't great. But those were all the trailers that came out for DC Fandome, except for the Flash Season 7, which, you know, you should have been watching at the beginning. I said I wasn't going to do that one. However, where were those two secret films that I did a video guessing which I thought they would be? I feel like I would have heard that news at some point, but I don't remember seeing any knowledge of any new films that were coming out. Maybe I did just completely miss it, but that was kind of a little bit of a disappointment. I don't feel like we got anything really new that was brought to the table. So if you wasted your time watching that top 10 list, I apologise, but I had no knowledge that was going to happen. And as well, I do want to thank Oliver over at Review Avenue. He really helped me formulate a lot of my thoughts for this video. Him and Sean have a great podcast. They are always helping out this channel, so I'm going to leave a link in the description. Please check it out, show them some love, put woof woof in the comments so that they know that the Mad Dog sent you. But I want to hear your thoughts. What was your favourite part of DC Fandome or the trailer that you loved the most? Leave them in the comment section below and we can discuss them together. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't like this video, why did you get this far? Please subscribe if you haven't already and click that bell notification so that you never miss a video. But check out some of my links. I'm always trying to make sure that I put up comic content. The next video should be this month also, get excited for that one. And if you do want to help support the channel, I'm not going to ask for Patreon or a membership or anything like that, but I do have an Amazon affiliate link down below. You know, get yourself something nice, treat yourself to a book, and if you click that link, it does just help the channel eventually. But more than anything, just make sure that you stay safe, keep reading, and keep barking all you mad dogs, and I'll see you at the next video.